You're listening to WGBB, Long Island's oldest radio station. I'm Brad Nellis.
I'm Scott Honickman.
And this is Nonsense News Nation, your news with a comedic twist. In just a few minutes...
Why is an award-winning lamb on the chopping block? There's a very special type of insurance available for all you space enthusiasts.
We talk about the latest squirrel diet. It's nuts. Why are Mexicans wearing winter coats in July?
President Trump takes a stand against a certain rapper's incarceration.
You heard about police dogs. What about police cats? And we get a moonwalker, and it's not Michael Jackson.
And we also marvel at the latest Marvel news with Brandon and myself.
Of course, who else? It's Nonsense News Nation on WGBB. You got me, Brandon Ellis. You have Scott Honickman right in front of me. You can't see it, it's radio. We hope your Saturday is fantastic and doing well. I mean, we're doing great right now. We're pretty much in the Disney World of radio stations, WGBB.
Another reason we're feeling great is because we have a new logo and it looks amazing, I'd say.
Right. You could check out our Facebook, our YouTube, our SoundCloud, our Twitter, pretty much anything on the internet with Nonsense News Nation. You'll see the logo. It's wonderful. Check it out. So right now we're going to take you across the nation to our first segment, which we call National News. Right, so Scott, without further ado, please give that national goodness.
I'd love to, Brandon. So our first story in the national news, in classic Nonsense News Nation fashion, is an animal-related story. Sometimes it's just too easy to come across a ridiculous story involving non-human creatures. So this past weekend, a lamb was crowned grand champion at the Logan County Fair in Ohio for winning an endurance fitness obstacle course. However, this award-winning lamb turned out to be a fraud, and it was later tested positive for having a performance-enhancing drug in its bloodstream. The drug in question was Lasix, a diuretic intended to make the lamb feel lighter than it actually is, Brandon.
Well, lambs are usually heavy. You know, lambs have been riddled in controversy for generations. We have, remember Dolly the sheep?
Of course.
The clone sheep.
Of course.
So you can't trust every sheep that you see, every sheep that you count before you go to bed. One of them may be a clone, and another one may be on diuretics.
You never know these days, no. These pesky sheep. But this is a lamb. So the lamb was reportedly showed by a young member of an organization known as 4-H shortly before it tested positive for the diuretic.
All right, so that was quite a good start to the show, but we're not going to stop there. It's not going to be a 5-minute show.
No, the train
Scott,
keeps rolling, Brandon.
Please tell us our next national story.
With great pleasure, I will. The next story is out of this world. Whether or not you believe in extraterrestrials, one Florida-based insurance company has got you covered for if and when the aliens come to abduct you. In Almonte Springs, Florida, resides Mike St. Lawrence, a grown man peddling alien abduction insurance offered by his legitimate insurance agency. So Lawrence claims that he is in the humor business, and says that he has sold over 6,000 policies since 1987, Brandon.
If you just watch the History Channel, it's called History Channel, so you should probably believe
Ancient
it.
Aliens.
They have a show,
about.
Ancient Aliens, that's right. And there's a person with crazy hair. He probably was abducted as a child. And he always goes, aliens. That's his explanation for every single thing. And you'll learn ancient Egypt. They made the pyramids. They caused the Nixon scandal in the 70s, or Watergate. Pretty much it's an explanation for everything.
Well, around this time is when aliens started becoming extremely popular because somebody came out and was from Area 51 and was talking about experiments. But
talking about Steven Spielberg advertising his E.T. movie, really?
Maybe this guy, St. Lawrence, was profiting off of E.T. by peddling his alien insurance. And also the guy on Ancient Aliens seems like a customer for this type of policy. Don't you agree with me? I think so.
If that
probably
includes
buy this.
wild hair gel in that policy, he's definitely part of it.
He's definitely, exactly. So, it's over 30 years, since 1987. The policy itself costs $19.95, but if you spend an extra $5, you can get a framed certificate. You can brag to everybody in your neighborhood that you purchased alien abduction insurance.
Well, if you don't believe in aliens, now you got your proof. There's an official certificate.
Brandon, this story, I'm telling you, it keeps getting more and more ridiculous and nonsensical as we go along. So, what exactly does this policy offer when you spend $19.95 on it, or $5 extra if you want the certificate? If you choose to purchase it, your policy includes $10 million worth of coverage, outpatient psychiatric care, sarcasm coverage, and double identity coverage. I assume that means that if an alien clones you and you're abducted, you can file a claim and make the money back. But what's riddled in the contract for this policy is, though you will receive $10 million, it's $1 every year for 10 million years.
For 10 million years.
Yes.
In alien time, that is nothing. But for us humans, that may be a little struggle living to 10 million.
Earth time, it's different. Maybe in 16 galaxies over 10 million years is only about 5 Earth minutes, we'd say. So how do you file a claim? Well, you need verifiable proof that you have been abducted, and you need an authorized alien signature to sign off on your claim. And also, due to the recent storming Area 51 phenomenon, Lawrence has created a new policy, and he says it's only activated if you go into Area 51 and you don't come out.
Okay, so we're going to take a break from America. We're going to take our plane tickets, and we're going to go to our next segment. We call that International News, where we're going to go around the world and just see what's going on here. Britain, you must have experienced some crazy stuff. Australia, Canada. We're not alone in this fight. So let's actually go to Great Britain and see if it actually is great. Okay, so even with the best intentions, the vegan plight has always been riddled with controversy. This time around, we can't exactly blame vegans for any sort of controversy, for once. Rather, we're pointing our fingers at the anti-vegans. Specifically, 2 meat-headed men at a food market. Soho Vegan Food Market, yeah. And it's in London. Mm-hmm. The 2 men thought it would be appropriate to snack on dead squirrels for the public to see. Maybe that's why British people are said to have such bad teeth. Squirrel meat.
I also hope it wasn't the squirrel D's nuts we talked about a few stories back, or a few shows back. The one who was fed meth. Anyway, call back. Continue, Brandon.
Only for the true fans.
Uh-huh.
So I don't personally care if you even own your own butcher shop. No one in their right mind wants to see that image, unless you're the dog from Up. Can we get the clip from Up? That squirrel scene.
He made me this collar. He is a good and smart master, and he made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel.
Honestly, that was probably in the minds of those anti-vegans.
It's definitely in your mind.
Let's protest. Squirrel! And they thought of squirrels, and they just chowed down.
Delicious.
So the incident actually happened March 30th. So it's been a while since these 2 not-so-gentle gentlemen paraded around with squirrel carcasses for an agonizing 30 minutes. So what happened to these folk? Well, last month, they appeared in court and denied the accusations that they were causing distress to the public. They actually defended what they did, claiming it was for educational purposes. Just like when History Channel says educational purposes when they have ancient aliens. That same logic.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Exactly. So unless it's trying to educate people on how to make the next Saw movie, I personally don't see how eating a squirrel carcass was a teachable moment.
It's not really, it's sending the wrong message, if any message at all. I mean, that is extremely anti-vegan, Brandon. No vegan in their right mind would do such a thing.
No human being. Maybe an alien. Maybe this should follow along our first story a little more, but
Brandon, you're making me think that I have to get this insurance policy now if you're talking about aliens.
May have to. So anyway, one of the bunch had to pay a fine of $200, while the other paid $400.
But they had the option to pay in acorns if they wanted to, right?
You know, for community service, they actually have to go to the squirrels' graves and put acorns instead of flowers. It's a lot more respectful for squirrel kind.
I hope
they don't
families
believe in
don't tear
flowers,
them
but
apart.
acorns, Wow. What an honor. So let's hope that because these two gentlemen are short of $200 and $400, they won't be able to afford more squirrel carcasses. Fingers crossed.
Well, I mean, they're free if you just find them in the wild.
So anyway, we're going to get a little bit away from the wild and go down to Mexico.
Okay. What's
Now,
going on there?
This story that I have right here, we actually were going to save it for the show before, but for some reason, I probably need a new prescription of glasses because I couldn't see it. So we're actually going to rewind this time. So can we rewind and go to the story for last show? Okay, so let's pretend it's like June 7th and we're going over the story for the first time. So here it is, a Mexican story. So bring your tacos, bring your quesadillas, because Poppy, you're in for a ride. So Scott and I don't always agree on everything, but one thing we can agree on is that summer is an incredible season. Whether it's sunny weather, the noticeable lack of school, or the freak hailstorms in Mexico, summer is a season he and I long for each and every year.
Apparently not in Mexico, they do now.
Yeah, so I mean, summer season is popular for most people, except those Mexicans, Scott. The country went from having, the typical 90-degree heated weather to a morning covered with hail completely. This happened, I believe, around the beginning of this month, so maybe June. It could have been June 30th, maybe July 1st. So think about when you accidentally overfill your drink with ice cubes. Except the ice cubes are hail, and your drink is Guadalajara, Mexico. Over 450 homes and many more cars were pelted with Mother Nature's icy vengeance. Without even knocking or ringing the doorbell, buckets of ice poured through countless doors and windows. You'd think it was a failed ALS ice bucket challenge. It was really that bad.
God was doing the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge.
Sure. You may not believe the situation could get any worse, but in all seriousness, 10 people already were being treated for hypothermia in the summer.
In Mexico, near the equator, by the equator. Let
me reiterate, this is not 2016 or 2014 or whenever the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge was. There shouldn't be this much ice anywhere in the summer. Save that for the polar bears, guys. The Mexicans don't need it.
I think Frozone came by, and he was a little upset.
Incredibles 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Incredibles 3. That's what it is. They're just filming Incredibles 3 in Mexico. That's what happened.
A live-action Disney remake. Everything ties together.
Does that surprise you?
So it's a little hard to tell if hypothermia is actually happening because usually this isn't a concern in the summer. To combat the icy threat, the Mexican army has deployed their roughest and toughest gear to help dig the millions of people trapped under their own ice age. As the ice melted, snow appeared throughout the streets, and when that melted, these streets became rivers, resembling a ride you'd most likely go on in Splish Splash.
I see.
While merely the size of marbles, the hail was strong enough to pack a punch to poor Guadalajara. It looks like tourists will have more to worry about when visiting Mexico than drinking its water.
Yeah, really pack your suit of armor when you go.
Really.
Okay, Brandon, I'm going to move on to my only international story today, and it's a doozy, okay? Okay, so now we're going to the land of Sweden. We were in Mexico, we're hopping on a plane, and we're flying to Sweden for the next story.
God, I'm going to get jet lag.
And we're bringing someone along for the ride, Brandon. President Trump, who has been negotiating with Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven to bail out famous rapper A$AP Rocky. After much convincing from the First Lady, Kanye West, and Kim Kardashian, Donald Trump stated publicly that he would vouch for the rapper's bail. Rocky was incarcerated last month for assault, but Trump assured the Prime Minister that Rocky was not a flight risk. Löfven said in a statement that he'd be happy to talk to Trump, but would not be influenced by him to make any decisions regarding the rapper's incarceration. And only time will tell if Trump helped or hurt Rocky's chances of being released from jail.
Kanye has been very close with the president, and You know, his wife, Kim Kardashian, made a lot of big changes to the prison system here in the U.S. But what we didn't know is she was doing it so Kanye's rapper buddies can get out of prison.
We had no idea until now, but she didn't really help anything because this is not an American problem. This is a Swedish problem. She can't do anything about the Swedish prisons, can she? We don't know. Maybe she has already. Well, she did convince Trump.
I mean, I'm sure if she makes a sex tape in Sweden, she'll have a lot of influence there and maybe something will happen. But for now, we won't worry about that. Mm-mm. And I think it's time. Maybe we move on to our next segment of the show, where we went around the world. We went across the country to see the latest of goofs. But we're going to go to one very big, one very special fail. That's going to be our fail segment of the show. And we go over probably the biggest fail that we could possibly find. So let's take a little look here at our fail today. So the world hasn't been the same since the trailer to the musical Cats was released. With your favorite celebrities turning into furry freaks of nature and Sonic the Hedgehog saying meow in his own movie trailer, cats have been getting a bad rep. The situation only worsened thanks to a Canadian press conference that will live in infamy. It's 2019, so of course it was live streamed on Facebook. I mean, obviously. Because of Facebook's special mutant power to add filters, a grave conference about a double homicide turned into a joke when it added a cat filter on the poor sergeant leading the conference. So instead of 2 people died today, it was meow. That's all you could hear.
Just like Sonic.
Yeah. Facebook thought it was the perfect opportunity to show off its love for cats right during the update of the death of an American woman and her Australian boyfriend. Let's hope that she isn't allergic to cats or filters of cats. The National Police later addressed the issue on Twitter saying, "We are aware of addressing it as it's an automatic setting, We here on Nonsense News Nation have nothing but respect for the Canadian police, but we recommend that they stick to police dogs instead of police cats." Just saying.
Good recommendation. Now, I think we're going to turn around a little bit and talk about our local story this week.
Will do. Okay, so we're going to go into our next segment. We call that Your Neighbor's News, or in layman's terms, it's our local segment of the show.
Yes.
Where stuff that happened in Long Island
it's
and therefore could possibly happen
so
to you.
Local that it may as well be happening to you, right?
So
it may as well be.
Let's give it a shot.
And we have probably the most exciting local story we've ever reported on Nonsense News Nation. We're of course going to be discussing the viral video of the man lashing out at a Bagel Boss in Bayshore. Now we're a little late to the party on this one. This happened a few weeks back, but we're still going to have some fun with this story. All right, so the 5-foot-tall man went on a tirade in the Bagel Boss, claiming that he had been struggling to find a partner due to his height on dating sites and in real life. He then got into an altercation with a female customer and was soon tackled by a man who seemed to be 5 times his own size. After the video was uploaded to Twitter, it went viral almost overnight. And one of the funniest things about this whole situation is that if you were to go into that Bagel Boss and then mention the video, you received a free mini bagel.
So a lot of people may not understand what happened. So I'm going to put it into Lord of the Rings terms for people who may not understand the situation. So think of the man like Frodo Baggins in the first Lord of the Rings, and think of the guy that jumped him like the troll from Lord of the Rings that kind of whacked him with a club. That's what happens.
That's essentially... Oh yeah, and he almost, quote-unquote, died.
The man from Bagel Boss didn't die, but we got some great memes from his legacy of this story. For example, he said, "You're not God, you're not my father, and you're not my boss."
You're not my boss.
Get it? Because Bagel Boss?
You're not
he wasn't
my bagel
thinking that.
boss.
He was just filled with rage. And Scott lost it.
I first saw this video on a huge TV, my friend's TV. And
saw it on IMAX.
I saw it on IMAX. He even looked small on the huge TV. Oh my god.
Okay, so that was your local story. We got we got another segment for you. 2 more segments to go. We're getting right through this, people. We got our segment called Spastic Sports, so our sports segment of the show. And we're going to go right to it. So when we talk about sports on Nonsense News Nation, we aren't talking about the footballs, the baseballs, or the basketballs. If you want that, I recommend blowing the dust off that old Nintendo Wii in your basement closet and playing Wii Sports. Yeah, remember that? The first video game that was considered hip at the old folks' home?
Brandon, it sold more than Endgame. It sold more
Nothing
copies
sold
than
more than Endgame. So, well, the sports we talk about on the show can range from stamp collecting to walking. Yes, you heard me correctly. Walking.
I'm walking here.
I'm walking here. Unless you're FDR, most people won't. Most people will take walking for granted. That may all change, friends, as I tell you this next story. An Indonesian man is walking 730 kilometers. It doesn't stop there. He's doing it backwards like a certain moonwalker. Could we play a clip from that moonwalker, Mr. Michael Jackson?
Play at my house. I'll let you play with the elephant, man. We can take a nap in my oxygen chamber. Come on, please. I want to see you moonwalk.
It's from a Mad TV parody where it's Home Alone, both Michael Jackson. Yeah, so think of an Indonesian Michael Jackson moonwalking to the Indonesian capital. So the man is not MJ, but Mehdi Bastoni, so MB. So he's a 34-year-old man, and he's doing this for environmental reasons. This new Captain Planet-like hero began his journey on the 21st at Dono, and he's hoping to reach the capital, Jakarta, by August 17th to meet with the president on the nation's Independence Day. He plans on giving the president a seed to plant, symbolically asking him to support rainforest preservation. By the way, when I say president, I'm not talking about Trump. He's our problem. He's not Indonesia's problem.
He's the whole world's problem. That's another story.
So hopefully with Bastoni's valiant moonwalking efforts, Indonesia will be a lot more greener.
It is symbolic of a green movement. It's one step at a time, right, Brandon?
And speaking of green, we want to talk about a company that's been making a lot of green, Marvel. So we're going to go into our final segment of the show. So that's entertainment, and we're going to go over a lot of movie news today. So let's talk about it, Scott.
Yes, so Marvel earlier this week, they unveiled their plans for Phase 4. They showed off a lot of new movies, a lot of television shows that they're going to have exclusively on Disney+. And, Brandon, I'm really looking forward to Phase 4. And you know who else may be looking to forward to Phase 4 a lot? Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse himself. I mean, we got a lot of movies. Black Widow, solo movies coming out.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings or whatever. Eternals. So many. Thor 4. Fantastic Four is confirmed. Blade saw a lot. So it's honestly a very big deal for Marvel. They beat Avatar with Endgame. So it's
recently.
We have to ask the man, the myth, the mouse himself, Mr. Disney, Mickey Mouse, his opinions on how Marvel is doing so well. So Mickey, thank you so much for coming to the studio.
Oh, honestly, Brandon, it's quite an honor. It's very good to be here.
Yeah, Mickey, we're curious on your opinions about Marvel.
Excuse me? I came here to buy out Nonsense News Nation.
Excuse me, Mickey? You're going to try to purchase us?
We're going to make a ride at Magic Kingdom.
Based on our news show.
Based off you, Scott.
Based off me? And our logo? And our stories? But just me?
You and your luscious red hair.
Wait a minute. Someone else is coming into the studio right now. Is that Goofy?
I think it is.
Well, hey, Mickey. I'm here to help you buy out Nonsense News Nation.
Listen, man, they're not buying it.
What do you mean they're not buying it?
They're talking about Marvel again. Everyone's talking about Marvel.
All right, let's get out of here and buy another news show.
All right, so we'd like to thank Mickey and Goofy for really
stopping in and
really adding to the show.
It was a little rude how they tried to buy us like that. Well, they can't just buy everything, can they?
You know what? We're here at WGBB and we're proud. And speaking of being proud, we'd like to thank our sponsor, the Halftime Howie Show.
Of course.
For helping contribute to the show. Great show on Facebook. I recommend you check it out. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. If you want to sponsor the show or become a guest on the show, you can contact us at nonsensenewsradio@gmail.com. That's nonsensenewsradio@gmail.com. On behalf of all the dolts and dummies in the world, thank you for keeping our Zane Lou show afloat. And thank you for listening.